Hello, my name is Gustavo Vargas Vascajay. I chose The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Author background: Robert Frost was born on March 26, 1874 in San Francisco and died on January 29th, 1963 in Boston. He was a well-known American poet who spent much of his life in rural New England. Frost's personal life was full of hardship, including the early death of his father, the loss of two of his children, and struggles with mental health. Despite this, he has been driven to write about the human experiences, particularly the difficult choices that shapes our lives. He was deeply connected to society, often exploring themes of isolation, nature, complexities of human decisions. How does the poem relate to society? When written, society and justice references. The poem reflects the personal choice of people faced during the early century, time of rapid change from the world to unburdened living. One example could be, so let's say about like COVID-19, pretty much like how we all had to, be in our house locked away. I see this as an example because we were all like stuck in our houses for a pretty long time, and we had to do classes online, and it was just a disaster for everyone. Large audience or single reader, it speaks to the individual, focusing on one person's internal struggle, so it can resonate with a broader audience. Political driven, not overly driven, but political, but it reflects the society and change with increasing importance of a personal choice during that time. Poem relations to society today. Even though this poem was written over 100 years ago, it still resonates today in our modern world. We are constantly faced with choices about career, relationships, and personal values, often under pressure from society. Frost's poem reminds us that the decisions we make change the directions of our lives in ways we might not expect. The idea of choosing the road less traveled still speaks to the desire for individuality and standing out, especially in today's culture where personal identity is often shaped by external factors. Poem recitation. I'll now read the first stanza of The Road Not Taken aloud. Two roads diverge in the yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood. I chose this part because it sets the stage for speaker's dilemma, where they face two options but can only take one. So this could use an example for, like, let's say you have two career options you want to choose. So for me at the time, well, a couple years back when I was in high school, my junior and my senior year, I was deciding if I wanted to be a blue collar worker, like choose a blue collar career path, which would have been mechanic or welding, or if I wanted to go in like in a more like in a university, something that involves like a degree or bachelor's degree to have a job. And if you get what I mean. At first, I thought I wanted to do blue collar work. At first, I loved it. I went to Hart High School and I did this program called CTE. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about it. Basically, I started off with the mechanic. I loved it at first, but after a couple weeks, I decided not to, go for the second year because I I knew that was like the type of career I did not want to go with, and that's fine. Obviously, it takes time to find a career path that you want to take. Then welding came along for my senior year. I actually loved welding. Welding did show me a lot of skills that, and it showed me more of a, the realistic path of a blue collar worker. Your hands are gonna get dirty all the time. You might be smelling like fumes, stuff like that. I didn't mind it, but I didn't want to like do it as a lifelong career. I loved it though, and but now after experiencing those like maybe like blue collar little experience on blue collar work, I decided that, you know well, I'm trying to get into like hopefully in the future to get a bachelor's degree in computer science. Hopefully have a stable tech job at a, in an office and where in a clean area. Yeah, and that's basically why I chose this quote. Paraphrase and annotation. In this stanza, the speaker stands out at a crossroad, literally and figuratively. They see two paths and they regret not being able to walk. Both two roads diverge in a yellow wood is a beautiful image that symbolizes a moment of change or decision. The word yellow that symbolizes a moment of change or decision. The word yellow can also evoke the sense of autumn, a time of transition, which matches the theme of a life altering decision, moving to the next line, and sorry, I could not travel both. The speaker expresses a sense of loss as they went if they want to experience both paths, but they're forced to choose only one. Um, mm, Poem pattern. The poem follows a regular pattern, a rhythm. It uses a b scheme. It's each stanza, which helps gives the poem a sense of rhythm and flow. The structure contrasts with the uncertainty that the speaker feels when making their decision. The meter is mostly iambic meter, meaning each line has four iambs or pairs of syllables. This creates a steady rhythm, mirroring the speaker's contemplation of their choices. Themes. One major theme in the poem is the impact of choices that the speaker reflects on the how one decision can shape the entire course of their life. In line, I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all differences. The speaker suggests that the choice, although difficult, made them they are today. Um, so going back to my blue collar experience when I did SCT, so how I can relate to this one? Basically, how do I say this? So it was difficult for me to like not work in welding, not like to go further in my welding. I was doing pretty good, and I was able to pass like all the tests, like the bend tests and etc. stuff like that. And I was getting hands-on experience with like mechanical engineering with can I forgot the one software name, but it was basically like a software where you create like 3D models of, let's say, like a project, right? It could be anything. So when I was at CT in the, I think it was a robotics and welding. I forgot something like name like that. We were our assignment was basically making a water wheel, and I found it really cool because we use these how do I say it? Like a software to create these models of these products. No, not these products. Um, our project, and we had to like learn machine code and use slave machines, like basically stuff like that, and use a metal cutter and weld all the stuff together. It was pretty cool, but in the end of the day, I decided to choose the path of like tech because I've always done tech my whole life. Basically ever since I was a kid. And going back to the other thing I said, another theme is regret and reflection in the line I shall be telling this with a sign of somewhere, ages and ages hence's. The speaker looks back on their choice with a mix of nostalgia and what might be regret. Finally, the poem explores individuality. The idea of the road less traveled speaks to the idea of forging your own path, even when faded and uncertainty. Poetic devices. Front uses several poetic devices in the poem to enhance its meaning. First, he uses imagery like the opening line, two roads diverge in a yellow wood. The vivid image of the forest immediately places us in the moment of decision. He also uses symbolism, especially with two roads. These roads represent the choices we all make in life. They highlight how different decisions can lead to different futures. Another device is alliteration. In the line "wanted where," the repetition of the W sound creates the pleasing rhythm and emphasizes the speaker's thoughts about the paths. Metaphor is also prominent here. The road less traveled by. Symbolism, non-conformity, a life lived against the grain. Finally, front uses enchantment, like the line "I doubted if I should ever come back," to create a sense of uncertainty, suggesting that the speaker doesn't know if they ever return to this moment. Decision. Mood and tone. The tone of the poem is reflective and regretful, yet accepting. The speaker looks back on their decision with both wonder and a tingle sorrow. The mood, on the other hand, in contemplative, it invites the reader to think about their own choices and how they shared their lives. The line I shall be telling with this was a sigh, captures the nostalgic and a bit bittersweet feeling of the speaker's reflection. The narrator. The narrator in the poem isn't front Frost of himself, but a fictional character, reflection of their path. The speaker seems to be someone who is looking back on the decision they made, realizing the profound impact it had on their life. They aren't just making a choice in the moment; they're contemplating on how that choice will forever define them. This is seen in lines, and that was made all the difference. Um, so one thing I could talk about right here is basically, so when I was in high school, also I had a lot of things going in my mind. One, I wanted to be a blue collar worker, or two, I wanted to be like this tech guy who has a tech job because I found that pretty cool. And I always, did tech, like playing video games. I used to help like my family. I come from Hispanic family. They obviously don't know like much about like phones and how they work. And even my sisters who are born here, like they went to high school. Like I have some siblings who never got the opportunity to go to high school. But even they had troubles, and I would be the one helping them with like troubleshooting, or let's say if their laptop is broken and the audio wasn't coming in, stuff like that, right? Basic stuff. And I was doing that when I was like 5, and I found it. I was like, maybe tech would be a good job. I mean, a good career for me because I was pretty interested in cybersecurity and IT. And well, one thing I can say about this that has made all difference. It's basically one time in high school as a senior, I wanted to join the Marine Corps. It was a tough decision. I hyped up my whole family, telling them, "Oh, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go." Telling my dad, "Oh, don't worry, I'm gonna go to the Marine Corps and become a Marine." Right? The proud and the few. I forgot how the saying goes. And basically, I did. I went to MEPS. I did some like I think it was called. Well, I was in the delay entry program, and basically the delay entry program is a program that basically gets you ready for the Marines boot camp. And every Saturday, it could be a weekday as well, depending on like if I had school or not. I would be taken to like Muskegon, GR, or like in the woods somewhere in like Kalamazoo, like different parts in Michigan, and we would go against like different like locations because one location, for example, like for the Marine Corps, they would have like different locations for like uh how do I say it, for delay and people who are in a delay entry program. So it could be like Muskegon versus Grand Rapids, and they would bring them up together and do challenges, and these would build up teamwork and get you ready for boot camp. Basically, once I graduated, I called up my recruiter and I told him, hey, the Marine Corps isn't for me. I looked more into it and I decided I'm not going to be going. I'm sorry to if I wasted your time, basically stuff like that. Because what changed my mind is basically I was at first I was going to go to Michigan State University to study computer science, right? And I was talking to him and I brought up the idea of like, hey, I want to go to the Marine Corps also. And he was real with me. He gave me pretty good advice. About how I can balance that. But he also told me, well, I'm gonna keep this more like personal stuff. But basically, we were talking, and it wasn't his like how do I say it? It wasn't his I forgot that one word. His thoughts that made me stop joining the Marine Corps. It was my thoughts. Um, I was a teenager still in high school, so I didn't really know what I was doing. I did at the same time, but like I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. But it was a pretty hard decision, and I see that there's a little line right here. It really does connect to me because look, after making that choice, it just made the whole difference in my life. Like my life could have been better or worse because I know the military isn't for everyone, and I will never know if it was for me. But so far, I see it as if it wasn't for me. It wouldn't work out for my favor, but I do like after being into the lay entry program for the Marine Corps, the respect I have for military personnel have just grown. Like whenever I see them, I always thank them for their service. And yeah, personal reflections. I chose this poem because it reminds me of the difficult decisions we all face, whether it's choosing a career, a relationship, or path in life. We can relate the idea of choosing one direction and wondering what might have happened if we had chosen differently. Personally, the line "I took one less traveled by and that has made the difference" resonates with me as it speaks to the importance of the following your own path, even when it's hard. Basically, I put 3 images up of like what I was talking about earlier when I wanted to become a mechanic at first, and then a welder, then a tech guy. Yeah, you can see how like it changes a lot. Yeah, and I found this quote really good for me. Like I found it fit me a lot. So because I had a lot of like these like differences of career paths I wanted to take, and I hopefully go fully through with this. I mean, I've been loving it, like learning how to code and stuff like that, how to make projects. Actually, not a long time ago, I built a calculator, and that was pretty sick. I mean, it's not really much, but hey, it's a lot for me. questions for the class. Now I have a few questions for you to think about. Do you think the speaker would have felt differently if they had taken the other path? How do you interrupt the image of the yellow wood? What does it symbolize of you? Do you think the idea of the road less traveled still applies in today's society? Why or why not? And we're excited. Finally, here's my works